let me tell you about a kid from Marion, Indiana.
I feel like he tried to take me, he tried to get my career when he slammed me.
Born July 16th, 1981, whose life started rough and only got rougher. Born to struggle, maybe, but he came out swinging. At Marion High, under coach Mo Smedley, Randolph was already turning heads, leading his team to back-to-back state championships and earning McDonald's All-American MVP honors. 23 points, 15 rebounds. Yet, rumors say his home life was anything but silver screen perfect. But you don't just rise through hoops without scars. At 15, Zach got slapped with a battery charge. 2 years later, juvie detention for stolen guns. He served 30 days for stealing a pair of jeans straight out of Walmart because he got tired of kids at school calling him crusty. Here's where it gets real. Marion wasn't just small-town Midwestern Americana. There were whispers of drug corners and local beefs. Some even say young Zebo stepped into the shadow world of the gangster disciples, razor-thin margin between respect and arrest. So, let me ask you, how does a kid go from a juvie cell to the NBA's first-round draft board? Hold tight, next section unpacks how talent meets criminal radar before the league even knew what hit it. So, how does a kid born counting days in juvie end up rocking NBA hardwood with one hand in the street and one hanging with legends? It starts in Portland. Zach Randolph enters the league in 2001, drafted 19th by the Trail Blazers. He wants buckets, but the city never checked its pulse. Portland was bleeding. Drugs, violence, rumors of GD tie-ins shadowing the team's bench. Portland's forgotten moniker, the Jail Blazers. Randolph wasn't the only one scraped by probation officers on game nights. Even the GM once told Tony Allen, "I have my research team on you. Is it going to be a problem playing with Zach Randolph since you guys are two different disciples?" Because both carried GD DNA, different sets, but the same soundtrack. Zebo was racking up double-doubles, but the streets had footholds in his life that league refs couldn't sniff out. Is it possible to dominate on the court while tension simmers off it in locker rooms, in cars, behind closed doors? Next up, we dig into the Portland locker room fire, including a cleared accusation, his Frisco beef feud, and how those off-court pressures threatened to burn the whole witch hunt down. Portland didn't have a basketball team. They had a reality show with a win-loss record. In the early 2000s, the Trail Blazers locker room was a minefield, and Zach Randolph, he wasn't just walking through it. He was the one throwing matches. Let's break it down. He punched teammate Ruben Patterson in the face over a practice argument. Broke his eye socket, had to pay him off to keep it quiet. Another time, he allegedly socked out teammate Quintel Woods during a heated card game. And the craziest part, he left the arena before the game was over to avoid media fallout. They said it was team conflict, but fans knew better. This wasn't just a team spiraling, it was a crime series in warm-ups. Drug arrests, DUI charges, assault accusations, even animal abuse made headlines when Quintel Woods was busted for dogfighting. And while Zebo wasn't caught with a leash, the smoke was always close. He wasn't guilty of everything, but his name was always nearby, like a fingerprint you couldn't scrub. And yeah, there was even an accusation thrown his way too. A woman accused Randolph and another man of assault in 2006. But the charges dropped. Not enough evidence. Still, the label stuck longer than his 10 rebounds a night. What do you do when your reputation gets you benched more than your game? You run. Next up, Zebo skips town, lands in Memphis, and reinvents everything. Or so we thought. He didn't change. He just changed zip codes, and honestly, this zip code was the perfect soil for a seed of iniquity to be planted in. When Zach Randolph got traded to Memphis in 2009, most of the league shrugged. He wasn't an all-star, he was a liability, a walking technical foul, an enforcer with no empire. But Memphis needed a villain. And Zebo, he was tired of being the punchline. He wanted to be the story. They didn't just sign Zach, they signed his lifestyle. He showed up with his baggage, the fights, the rap sheets, the rep. But here's the twist. The dude hooped hard, averaged 20 and 12, led a group of underdogs into the playoffs, and 2011 took the number 1 seeded Spurs out with surgical precision. They called it grit and grind, but let's keep it real. That was Zebo's gospel. Tony Allen might have brought the grit, but Zach Randolph baptized the league in that grind. He played like every rebound owed him rent, and the streets noticed. Memphis loved him like a hometown savior. The same dude who left Portland with police escorts was now paying utility bills for single mothers in Memphis, hosting Thanksgiving drives, showing up to city council meetings. But even as the cheers got louder, so did the whispers. Because Zebo was putting on for the city, prying eyes were watching, wanting to put him in the slammer. Coming up next, the drug raid that put Zebo back in the crosshairs. They say you can take the man out of the streets, but you can't take the streets out of the man. August 9th, 2017, Nickerson Gardens, one of LA's most notorious housing projects. The kind of place where every move gets watched and remembered. And on this night, police were watching everything. A loud block party had grown into something more. The smell of weed, sound of music, and then the tension snapped. Cops swarmed in, dozens arrested, 2 guns recovered, 2 vehicles impounded, over 2 pounds of weed seized. And in the middle of it, Zach Randolph, NBA veteran all-star, now cuffed up like a foot soldier. Police claimed the weed was packaged with intent to sell. The media went crazy. The headlines painted him like a kingpin who never left the game.
Breaking news this morning, NBA superstar Zach Randolph, a guy who just signed a 2-year, $24 million contract with the Kings, was arrested in LA last night for having a ton of weed, according to police.
And just like that, everything from his past came rushing back. The GD rumors, the Memphis whispers, the fear, the respect. It all felt like it was confirming what people always suspected. That Zebo wasn't just a baller, he was a boss baller, on and off the court. Now, to be clear, he didn't get hit with any felonies. Charges were dropped down to a misdemeanor. He did 150 hours of community service. But by then, the narrative was already cooked. But just when it looked like Zebo's legacy might burn down in smoke. Most players build a brand. Zach, he built a street-certified record label while still getting buckets. While the NBA media was focused on Steph's three-point revolution and LeBron's empire, Zach Randolph was quietly cooking something different. He wasn't chasing shoe deals, he was chasing bars. Zebo wasn't just watching highlights, he was watching underground rap videos. And in the streets of Memphis, there was one name echoing louder than 808s. Moneybag Yo. Young, hungry, straight out of the mud. Zebo pulled him close, like real close. Signed him to his own label, Endless ENT. While still an active NBA player, not after retirement, not from the sidelines, during games. Zebo would go from drop-stepping on Pau Gasol to signing contracts in his hotel room, like it was nothing. He didn't just give Bag a check, he gave him leverage. Resources, studio time, guidance, and maybe more importantly, street cred that crossed over into boardroom territory. This wasn't an athlete co-signing a rapper, this was a kingpin passing the torch. And it worked. By 2017, Moneybag Yo dropped Federal 3X, his first project to crack the Billboard 200. And guess who was celebrating in the background? That's right, Zach, head of the table Randolph. But when your past is that loud, it never stays in the background, because just a year later, Zebo's name would be back in the headlines. You can't fake real, and in Memphis, Zebo didn't just play ball, he built a kingdom. By the time the dust settled from the 2017 arrests, Zach Randolph had already done something far more powerful than beat a charge. He had become a symbol of toughness, of loyalty, of a city that never had a superstar, but always had heart. You see, Memphis didn't care about clean press conferences or corny endorsements. They cared about effort, and Zebo gave it all. Night after night, season after season. This man led the grit and grind movement, the anti-glamour style that turned the Grizzlies from overlooked to unforgettable. He averaged 20 and 10 during that magical 2011 playoff run, slapped the Spurs out in the first round like it was personal, and every time they asked if he'd tone it down, he looked at them dead in the eye and said, "I'm from Marion, Indiana. We don't bluff." Zebo wasn't trying to be a role model. He was being himself. They didn't retire his jersey just because of stats. They did it because he meant something to that city. More than a player, more than a star. Zach Randolph became a blueprint. You can make it out and still bring the streets with you the right way. But behind every triumph, there's a cost, and for Zebo, the streets he never let go of, they didn't always let go of him either. You ever notice how some legacies don't fit neatly on a banner? Too jagged, too real, too raw to retire in peace. That's Zach Randolph. Because for every standing ovation, there was a whisper. For every All-NBA selection, a mugshot surfaced. For every Zebo for mayor chant in Memphis, there was someone questioning his ties to the GDs. Gangsta disciples. Not rumors, facts backed by FBI surveillance and court allegations. At one point in 2011, James Reuben Beasley was allegedly bludgeoned with pool cues by 4 to 7 people after showing up to serve Zebo some bows. Now, did he get convicted? No. But the smoke around Zebo was never just from the nets he torched. There was heat, always. But here's the paradox. Zebo gave hundreds of thousands back to his community. He funded high school gyms, mentored youth, and fed families on Thanksgiving. He gave away as much as he kept. So, was he a villain? A hero? A cautionary tale? A misunderstood king? Maybe he's all of them. Maybe that's the point. Zach Randolph's story isn't clean. It's carved out of concrete, conflict, and contradiction. Sometimes being the bad boy of something isn't always a bad thing. And the book, still open. What do you remember most about Zebo? The scowl, the stat lines, or the silence in the paint when he walked in? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The story isn't done until you write the ending.